Colon. A colon can be used to introduce an explanation, to separate independent clauses, to introduce an example, to introduce a list in a sentence, and a colon can also be used before direct speech. An example of a colon used to introduce an explanation is, she had one problem. There was no way she could finish her homework in time. In this sentence, the general idea is given, followed by the colon, and then the specific explanation is given. The colon in this sentence can also be used to show emphasis. An example of a colon used to separate independent clauses is, they will not make it home in time, the roads are very icy. The colon is used instead of a semicolon between the independent clauses. The reason for this is because the second sentence explains the first sentence. So, they will not make it home in time, and the reason for this is because the roads are very icy. An example of a colon used to introduce an example is, if she was going to make the cake, then she needed all the ingredients. For example, flour, butter, eggs, and milk. An example of a colon being used to introduce a list in a sentence is, I like to play all kinds of sports. Football, basketball, tennis, and golf. Remember, when we have a list in a sentence, we always use a comma to separate the items in the list. An example of a colon used before direct quote is, she shouted, get back to class. A comma can also be used before the direct quote. There's no difference whether you use a colon or a comma. However, make sure you remember to always start the quote with a capital letter. Semicolon. A semicolon is similar to a full stop. Therefore, instead of a full stop, we can use a semicolon. However, generally, we use a semicolon when two sentences are closely related. So, a semicolon is used to connect independent sentences that are related. For example, London is a famous city. There are many places to visit. Normally, when joining two sentences together, we use a conjunction. However, this is not necessary if we have a semicolon. If a conjunction is used to join the two sentences together, then depending on the type of conjunction, either a semicolon can be used or a comma. So, if the conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, then we use a comma. If you use a conjunctive adverb, for example, however, therefore, meanwhile, nevertheless, then we use a semicolon. These are only a few examples of conjunctions and conjunctive adverbs. There are many, many more. So make sure you research this. For example, my birthday is tomorrow. Therefore, I expect lots of presents. The conjunctive adverb, therefore, is used. so a semicolon has been inserted just before the conjunctive adverb. A semicolon can also be used in a sentence containing a list. For example, I have been on holiday to Istanbul, Turkey, Rome, Italy, Athens, Greece, and Paris, France. Another example is, at the circus we saw a clown juggling with swords, a lion who stood on a ball, a fire eater with flashing eyes, and an 8-year-old acrobat. So, when a semicolon is used in a sentence containing a list, generally the items in the list are long, or the list already contains internal punctuations, for example, commas. So in the first example, we have internal punctuation, commas, and in the second example, the list is very long. Each item has a long explanation. To summarize, a semicolon is used to connect independent sentences that are related, and a semicolon is used to introduce a list in a sentence.